Hi, I'm Amaya, and welcome back to the Amaya Show. This is our 10th episode, and as always, we have a lot to get into, but I just want to celebrate that we've made it to 10 episodes of the podcast. I've consistently been doing it, and we have so much coming up this week. I'm hoping to see the Cat's Eye documentary, and then they're dropping their album, and so I know those are things that you guys are always interested in me talking about, so we have a lot to look forward to celebrate to celebrate this 10th episode. Um, but before all of that, we have to get through today's episode, and we have a lot of topics to talk about, so let's get into it. The first one, normally I do the topics in chronological order, but this one was just on my mind and I forgot to write it down, so we're gonna go over that now. So, one thing is that Son from ATEEZ performed at a football game. Ooh, that hurts to say. It's soccer. He performed at a soccer game by himself. It wasn't a full performance. He just did a little bit of the dance for bad. And people were kind of clowning on him. And I don't really understand it because he's a performer and he did a little bit of a dance. People are saying it's cringy. I'm like, I don't think anything is cringe. I get on here in a bee costume. So obviously, my definition and their definitions are different. But I just thought it was him being regular. Like if they got anybody up there, they would do a little bit of a dance. So that whole situation, I don't really understand. I think he was being normal. Uh, yeah. Then I haven't done a podcast episode since Lollapalooza, guys. K-pop groups performed at Lollapalooza. So Jennie, Idol, aespa, and Cordis performed at Lollapalooza. I always think it's interesting to see what groups perform that didn't perform the year before. Like last year, I know they had Kickflip, but they had Kickflip because they also had another JYP group. I believe it was Twice. So in in this year, they didn't have any JYP groups performing. They had, of course, Jennie, who's under YG. They had aespa, who's under SM. They had Cordis under Hybe, and they had Idol under Cube. So I thought, you know, is there like a I mean, no one wants to go and see the same group isn't going to keep performing in the same place every year. And Twice has been pretty lax this year since they're doing their contract discussions and everything, actually. So I guess it makes, not this year, but it makes sense that they didn't do a performance this month. Uh, it makes sense that they didn't go to Lala again this year. What are your thoughts on K-pop groups performing at festivals? If there's one group that you want to see, are you willing to go to a festival to see it? And I wonder if K-pop groups in the future aren't going to perform at festivals as much because we know JYP, the man, not the company, has been working on organizing that K-pop festival, which would include groups from all those major labels. I wonder if they're going to pull back on performing at outside festivals. Maybe in locations where they're going to have it. This was a draft for a TikTok that I didn't end up posting, but I was thinking about NextZ, and they're actually performing at some festivals in Latin America this year along with Stray Kids. They're under the same sub label under JYP, and Latin America is a really big area to expand to right now. They have a growing K-pop fan base. They pretty united on the language front, with it being either Spanish or Portuguese. There's not a whole lot of other variation going on there that, you know what I mean, like generally. As opposed to you go somewhere like Europe, people speak a different language in every single country. And then what else? Yeah, so Latin America is a growing area for groups to go to, especially like, what was I thinking? aespa was speaking a little bit of Spanish in their most recent title track, Lemonade. ATEEZ just came out with that song Bad, which was Latin inspired. What if we go Latina? I'd go back to earlier this year. P1 Harmony came out with a Brazilian funk song, I want to say, which is a genre I really like. The 100 label CEO was issued an arrest warrant. I thought this was crazy. This is the story from Chosun Daily. Cha Gawon, the representative of the representative of entertainment agency 100 label, is accused of fraud involving around 30 billion Korean won. This came after the police applied for a bench warrant 3 times and the prosecution finally requested the warrant. So yes, they are out to get Miss Cha. And if you guys don't remember who she is, 100 Entertainment had companies, what 100 Entertainment had groups like Bad Villain, who were really interesting rookies. They had some super talented dancers on there. They had some music people were really into. And then they kind of disappeared, and we were like, where did they go? And basically, the CEO was allegedly committing fraud, and that's where they went. They had no money and they shut down. Where the boys were managed under 100 Entertainment when Hacknyon had that whole thing going on with the adult entertainer woman, and when where he got kicked out of the group for that when really he didn't do anything. And then honestly, let me be honest. I feel like the boys' music quality dropped drastically when they were under 100 label. I feel like the stuff they were putting out previously to when they were under, I think, IST, I think it was way better than what they put out under 100. And um that's just my opinion. But anywho, yeah. So where did all the money go? They're saying that she was committing fraud allegedly. So we'll have to see what comes of that case. Very interesting. Oh, there's someone else that we can who's a CEO who's been committing crimes we can talk about. If you have ever heard of 143 Entertainment, they have the group Maiden. Do not listen to their music. Their CEO, the members have said that he was sexually assaulting them, and some of the members were able to get out of their contract. The foreign members, however, are still under their contracts, and I believe he was supposed to be removed from his position, but he is still under the company 143, which is why no, there's a boycott on their music. And the other major group under there is Icon, and apparently the CEO, that guy, was seen behind the scenes at an Icon concert. So he's still very closely involved with everything, which was bad news for fans. Can we get an exciting story on the list? Yes, I'll go to an exciting story. The Gaio Daejeon Summer Special. Yeah, I didn't watch it. I feel like I'm really bad at keeping up with those events like that. Uh, I like to watch it live. If I can't watch it live, then I kind of skip it. Same thing, like I've never watched Mama because time zone difference. It's I think 13 hours, a 13-hour difference. So I just have never watched it. But yeah. So yes, but that was something that happened recently. Uh, Next one, BlackPink's unplanned fan meeting. Okay, so there was speculation. Blackpink recently had their 10-year anniversary, and that's a really big thing for a K-pop group. Of course, that means you renewed and you've made it 3 years. We figured Blackpink would make it this long. Like once they renewed, we figured they would make it to 10 years. But they are at their 10-year anniversary, and fans were upset that they had nothing planned for the group. So everyone's like, what's going on? Where is our 10-year? Where's our celebration? Are we getting an album? Are we getting anything? And then YG Entertainment came out and said that they would be doing a fan meeting for 40 special fans, and they would get to meet select members. What did they mean by select members? Well, we found out the next day that Rosé was guaranteed to be there, and then they ended up announcing another name, and we ended up getting all 4 members, which is great. That's what fans preferred, obviously. They don't want just black. They want Blackpink. So so people wanted the full group to show up. And yeah, and then people were talking about how Lisa left immediately afterwards, and I believe she went to Thailand after that. First of all, they asked the girls to rearrange their schedules for this, which means that it was not previously planned. Because if it had been planned in advance, they would have had everyone there, the same way they had everyone there for their tour and to film their music videos and to do their last album, right? So this is on YG. And then on Lisa leaving, how long is she supposed to stay? Like, what was she going to stay in the country and do? She had prior engagements and she had to leave. So that feels regular to me. Why would you? I show like at work they want me to come in on my off day, and then I show up and I leave on time. You can't. What is there to say about that? Okay. Then we have Cat's Eyes Sophia is now on hiatus. I talked about this a little bit. I think the whole group needs a break. Let's talk more about Sophia's hiatus individually. So Sophia is on hiatus for mental health. She said that she has to start putting her health first. That's what she's learned through all of this. And the company said that they'll reassess her situation in September. And if the doctors clear her, then she'll return. This is, a terrible time, obviously. So she really needed to take this break because they're coming out with their album on Friday. Their movie dropped today. So it's a lot, right? They're under a lot of stress. They have a lot of events going on. They're starting their tour pretty soon. So of course, if she could be there, she would have been there. Uh, and something that I always think about with K-pop groups is how they want to push people past their maximum. I always talk about when I was watching this show, but when I was watching the Santos Bravos TV show, they're consistently telling us you need to be, or maybe it was somewhere else. They're like, you need to be at 110%. You need to give it your all. We should be going from dawn till dusk. You need to be, and it's like there's 15-year-olds competing, and you're like, you guys don't want it hard enough. I don't want to be, that person, but I feel like there's nothing in life that you should ever want that bad. Like, what we're performing at the end of the day. We're not doctors, we're not lawyers trying to get people out of prison or trying to help people into better situations. We're not we're not like the military. You know what I mean? So sometimes I feel like they're pushing so hard and it's unnecessary. At the end of the day, you're performing, so I don't think all of that is needed. And a bad performance, really, unless you're consistently disappointing, you're gonna be all right. There are people who get on the, arguably, no shade to Miss Jenny, okay, but there are people who say that she's a bad performer every time she performs, and yet she keeps getting booked. So is it her 10 years of experience, you think, why she keeps getting booked? People, I mean, there are tons of people say that. People say LE SSERAFIM can't sing, but it's not stopping them from doing anything. People say, what else do they say? They say, like, there's something for everybody. But at the end of the day, does it really make a difference? Like, if Cat's Eye got on stage and they didn't practice for 6 hours, before they said they practiced for 14 hours a day. Now they're saying 6 hours. 6 is still a lot, but do you think if they didn't do all that, it wouldn't matter? Perhaps because they're known for performing, but that doesn't have to be the case. That doesn't have to be. So, I'm kind of head scratching there. I feel like there's certain things that they just do overboard, and that singing and dancing doesn't need to be something that you do from the morning when you wake up, from the moment you wake up until the moment you go to sleep. It's not that demanding of a thing. And I think they try to make it like they try to make it something that's supposed to feel demanding. Maybe it's I don't know if I'm explaining this well. Have you ever had someone who's just, they're like, "Oh goodness, have you I really want to get this bag. Oh, I hope I can get the bag. I just need to save up and I can get the bag, and then I got to get this bag." And then it's like you're so in a tizzy about this and it doesn't really matter that much. No one is living or dying, Mm, yeah, there's no lives at stake. That's just how I feel about it. But there are lives at stake if you're overworked, if you're pushing people past their maximum consistently. Laura talked about getting cortisone. Wait, cortisol is the stress. Okay, so cortisone shots. Laura talked about getting cortisone shots, which are supposed to help the body relax, I believe. And apparently that's something crazy to be getting at her age. And then, everyone's taking a break from this group. I've never seen a group with two members on hiatus at the same time either. So that's something I always thought was really surprising. I think this whole group needs to take a vacation. Everybody needs to just, like, a month, at least. A month of nothing. Because this group has just been on since debut. Well, since Gnarly, I want to say. They've just been on. Gnarly, I guess, blew up kind of unexpectedly, and then they did festivals. Then they dropped that album. So that they did their world tour. Then they came back and they did award shows. Then after that, award shows ended like February. What did they do after that? And then they are consistently doing interviews. Cat's Eye is not the type of group that ever disappears. I feel like, I mean, I don't remember earlier groups because I was a kid. But I feel like pop stars now, it's super rare for a pop star to always be in your face. Like, what's Sabrina Carpenter doing right now? I haven't a clue. Olivia Rodrigo, like the time between her album, all I got was clues. And I was deeply involved in the fandom speculation, like what's her album gonna be called and all this. And I didn't see her doing interviews every couple weeks and all of that in between her albums. So they keep Cat's Eye so busy, they keep them in the public eye, but they're doing too much, in my opinion, for them to be, you know what I mean? And then in turn, that's affecting you because think about how much would have happened if how much more they could have gained from having Sophia there, you know? And you know what? People are speculating that her situation is because of the group. But you know what? If the group took hiatuses, I feel like they also plan super far and ahead. I think everyone plans really far and ahead. But with them announcing this album 4 or 5 months before it came out, the tour, they also announced several months before it came out. So you start making plans for people super far in advance and announcing them publicly as well. And that's also part of their inability to take a hiatus. I'm sure they're booked through January of next year. So when are you giving people break time? Maybe like a week? Um, right. And so Sophia has talked about her ADHD and dealing with that in a interview. So I get, we don't know what the issue is. And obviously, she doesn't need to disclose all of that. People are just bringing up how the group is very busy and comparing this with Manal's hiatus, how much information they gave us, how much they're talking about Sophia. Yeah. You know what? I wanted to see that movie opening night, but some of the theaters are so far um, that I didn't make it. Obviously, I'm here. Uh, yeah, I feel like it would provide some insight maybe as to what's going on with them, but then again, they can't say too much. Um, yeah. So I hope everyone has a quick recovery. I hope the group can take a break when they're done with this album cycle and this tour. And yeah, and I think hopefully Cat's Eye's team reevaluates this whole thing and give them, like, going forward doesn't make their schedule so packed. Next up, I'm gonna do my top song of the week. So top song of the week is Pop Off by Kiki. If you heard it, you probably could have guessed that I like it. And I haven't finished that mini album yet. This is off their mini album Waikiki, which, first of all, I really respect the play on words there. So that already bumps the album up a couple points for me. But everything I've heard so far, I've liked. I will say these songs are short, which doesn't make them bad, but it does leave something to be desired. I did want to hear more, and they left me hanging. So I did feel a certain type of way about that, but I'll be okay. I'll be all right. Pop off sounds. I said it sounds like Kesha. It's the early, not early. It's the late 2000s sound that I haven't heard a lot recently. And you know what? I'm thinking about Adela. You guys probably know who Adela is. She completed. You probably know who she is. She competed on Dream Academy. She was eliminated. She's debuted solo now, and she debuted on the Billboard Hot 100. And her song it was my top song of the week last time I did a podcast episode. And her song gives off early 2010s. So I think that I feel like we've been doing retro sounds, but our retroness is now, as opposed to early 2000s, the early 2000s style is still around, but now it feels like we're moving a little bit forward in the timeline. We're shifting into the late 2000s, early 2010s, which, I'm a fan of. But what happens when we shift into current day? Like, do you think that the 2020s has a sound of its own that we could in the future look back on and say that's what our music sounded like? It's so different. But nostalgia is what people think back on. Ooh, I just pulled a piece of hair out. Nostalgia is what people think back on in the future. So how would you know? You know what I mean? That's like when we think about the 90s, there were so many different styles, and people just, is it what was most popular? Through the 2020s, a lot of things have been most popular. Maybe, huh? Maybe Sabrina, but I feel like everything that was most popular music wise in the 2020s was has been retro inspired. Like Sabrina Carpenter with her espresso and everything. That wasn't, you know? Anywho, I completely forgot to mention that Jeongyeon left twice. She is the first member, not twice. Oh, sorry guys. Jeongyeon left JYP Entertainment, but she stayed in twice. And this is what I would expect for them. The members talked a few years ago about how if they're going to be a group, they're going to all stick together. And of course, plans can change over the years, but I feel like it's obvious that the group would want to still be one. You know what I mean? They That's what they said originally, and it seems as things are going according to plan. I forget the name of the company she signed under. It's a little known company. It's not a major one, but I want to see how this impacts Twice going forward. I hope it's not like Red Velvet. I want every time we see Twice, I want it to be 9 and not just the members who remain under JYP. Because when you see Red Velvet, I of course, SM Town, they only do certain people and things like that, but it's bittersweet to only see a few members of your group together. You know what I mean? To have performances as 3, it's like that's not who you are. That's not who we are. We're 5. Those are all the topics for this week's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hype this video so it sends it out to a larger audience. That one makes a difference. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Also, thank you for all the support on my most recent video. Whenever I talk about certain topics, it's going to get a different kind of response. But yeah. Okay, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.